From changing their physical appearances to following the labor laws, here are all the rules that the young Sheldon cast had to follow when on set. It's important that actors match the appearance of the character they're playing in television shows and movies, and it's especially important in cases where a character is already well known to viewers. In the case of young Sheldon, the protagonist is someone fans are already very familiar with. Yes, this is a younger version of Sheldon Cooper. But given everything the audience knew about him and his personality, it would have been very odd if he looked dramatically different. It was vital that the creators of the show made Ian Armitage look as similar to Jim Parsons' version of Sheldon as they possibly could. This meant that the young actor had to dye his usually blonde hair dark brown for the show. His original hair can be seen in the show Big Little Lies, and it's noticeably lighter than Sheldon's hair in The Big Bang Theory. And viewers would have certainly picked up on this had the producers not stepped in and made Armitage go darker. He wasn't the only actor who had to follow strict rules in terms of their hair, as Reagan Revord also had to follow suit. Playing Sheldon's twin sister, Missy Cooper, meant that Revord had to have long brown hair for the show, and she was unable to get a haircut. Revord explained that she had been wanting a haircut so she could have shorter hair for 4 years. However, she had been blocked by the show's producers, who wanted her to keep the long hair that her character was associated with. That eventually changed after she was involved in a traumatic car crash, and those in charge relented after realizing how much it would mean to the young actor. Given the nature of young Sheldon, a lot of child actors were involved in bringing the prequel spin-off to life. And there are a lot of rules in place to protect child actors when they are filming television series and movies. In locations such as California and New York, where the majority of TV shows and films are made, children are restricted in terms of the hours they can work. Like The Big Bang Theory, young Sheldon was shot in California, where time spent in wardrobe and makeup is considered part of a child's working hours. A certain number of hours must be set aside for education, with 3 hours a day being the minimum in California. Ian Armitage has explained that this sometimes involves squeezing a lesson into a 20-minute break. It can be a challenge, but luckily for Armitage, he loves to learn. In fact, by the time the show came to a close, he was actually more advanced than your average 15-year-old. Speaking to UPI, he said, "I'm proud to say I'm a straight-A student, and I'm a bit ahead of where I would be normally. I could pretty much graduate this upcoming year if I wanted to, but I think I'll probably stay in and keep learning things that I'm interested in."
That was one of my classic jokes. Feel free to laugh.
California's strict rules on education for child actors helped Armitage get ahead of his peers, but he credits his teacher for making learning fun and keeping his best interests at heart. Speaking to the New York Post, he said, "Miss Mora does 2 things. She teaches me, but she also looks out for me to make sure I'm in safe conditions, so nothing unfair or inappropriate is happening." With any prequel, it's important that those taking part fully understand the franchise and take extra time to prepare for roles. After all, any errors or inconsistencies compared to the original series will be instantly picked up on by fans and will often lead to angry comments from the most dedicated among them. When it comes to shows like the still popular The Big Bang Theory, it is even more vital that everything syncs up and makes sense. For the cast of young Sheldon, this meant trying to learn as much as possible about the characters that they would be playing. The best source of that information was obviously the original actors, with Ian Armitage spending a lot of time with Jim Parsons to learn about Sheldon. In particular, the young actor worked with Parsons to perfect the voice of the character.
But then we also kind of worked on Sheldon's mannerisms and little things.
Zoe Perry, who plays Sheldon's mother, Mary Cooper, also studied the actor who originally played her character. However, she had a head start in terms of knowing her mannerisms, since the older version of Mary was played by her real-life mother, Laurie Metcalf. Speaking to The Hollywood Reporter, Perry said, "I definitely went back and rewatched her scenes because I wanted to make sure that I was in at least the ballpark." Because Sheldon is a genius, he often says things that you wouldn't expect to hear in normal conversation. While that wasn't much of a problem for an adult actor like Jim Parsons, who had plenty of acting experience, it was a little bit more difficult for the young Ian Armitage. After all, as those who watch The Big Bang Theory know, Sheldon began demonstrating a high intellect and a love of science from a very early age. This meant that the younger version of the character often had to say complicated and technical things. From his very first audition for young Sheldon, Armitage was forced to learn long monologues and scientific jargon. Speaking to Mashable, Armitage revealed the process of him landing the part, saying, "I had a 3-page-long monologue that I had to memorize." He also acknowledged that it was a complex task to learn his lines for the show, adding, "It is pretty hard. Usually I just read it a couple of times and then go for it." Unlike its sister show, Young Sheldon is a family comedy that can be watched by people of all ages. That means the jokes are more tame and the storylines don't focus exclusively on adult themes. The fact that The Big Bang Theory is aimed more at adults meant that it wasn't exactly suitable material for the young cast of the prequel show, even though it would have been useful to watch for research purposes. Speaking to Cinema Blend, Reagan Revord detailed how she wasn't allowed to watch The Big Bang Theory when she first started shooting Young Sheldon. She said, "When I first did the show, I was 9 years old. Big Bang is not for a 9-year-old, so I've never seen it before, and I actually still haven't seen it. I probably should watch it at some point." The same was true for the show's main star, Ian Armitage. While he watched a few select clips so he could see how Jim Parsons portrayed Sheldon, Armitage hasn't actually watched The Big Bang Theory properly yet. Speaking to Business Standard in 2018, he said, "Well, Big Bang isn't really appropriate for me. Plus, it's not really aimed at my audience level. So I only watched a few clips. I haven't really watched Big Bang, though. I would love to see it." Now that Young Sheldon is finished and the young stars are getting older, it's probably only a matter of time before they sit down to binge the original show.